Hey, I hope you're doing well. Quick message today about mental toughness and the realities of competition. And as I field questions from everyday competitors, athletes, it seems to me like there's such apprehension, there's such anxiety, there's so much avoidance of the downsides of competition. What are the downsides of competition? Well, losing, like in a nutshell, and all the things that come along with losing in terms of feeling like you've been exposed or like you're frustrated, like there's some kind of setback, or maybe you're not improving as fast as you wanted, or maybe it's kind of embarrassing because you felt like that person was worse than you, and so you have to come face to face with the like reality of like, well, who am I better than really? It takes you out of your little personal bubble of success and your little personal reality. And it forces you to kind of put that reality face to face with the outside world. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people, especially if you didn't grow up in competition, you didn't grow up competing and trying to beat other people and beat other teams. That can be really uncomfortable. But I want you to imagine the alternative for a moment. Imagine an alternative universe or like a parallel world where there was no loss. And every time you entered a tournament or every time, first of all, this is wouldn't work, right? Because for there to be a winner, like by default, there has to be a loser. But just suspend that logic for just a moment and just imagine that every time that you played a tennis match, at the end of the match, all of a sudden this big stage got set up and red carpet got rolled out and somebody was standing there with a big check and handed you a big trophy and you like raised the trophy up and like no matter what you did every time there was like ultimate success and everybody like cheered and clapped. Like would that really be satisfying like after the 30th time or the 40th time or the 50th time? After a while it would just be normal, right? It would just be like, oh well, this is pretty cool, and like I guess it's gratifying that everybody thinks that I'm so great and I'm so amazing. But there'd be this little voice at the very minimum in the back of your head that was like, do I really deserve this? Like, and does this really matter? If every time I try something, there's this big celebration and there's this big success, is it really meaningful if there's nothing risked? If there's no downside, if there's no potential failure, then why does the success, really matter? And is it really success if nothing was risked in the first place? If there's no risk of getting exposed, if there's no risk of embarrassment, if there's no risk of maybe a setback or a failure, then the wins don't really matter that much. And it's not really that meaningful or satisfying if there's no alternative, if there's no other path that you could have gone down, then there's not, nothing ventured, nothing lost is the, or no, I'm sorry, nothing ventured, nothing gained is the old kind of cliche quote. This is top of mind for me because I watched the Packers last night, and we were on this like incredible run towards the end of the season, and we lost last night, so the season is over for us, and it just made me reflect on, you know, if if at the end of that game, here's the thing, like at the end of the game, if we lost, we knew the season was over. If we won, then we went into the postseason. So it was like the ultimate kind of like hinge, and we put ourselves in that position by not having a good start to the season. So would I even care about that game if it was like a guaranteed win and it was guaranteed Super Bowl? It's like let's just imagine, in a parallel universe, like every year the Packers win the Super Bowl. Then the times like it would be meaningless after a while. It wouldn't really matter. Nobody would really care because that would just be normal, and there's no downside. There's no risk. It's the same thing in like movies or entertainment. There's this great concept I like relative to storytelling. I don't remember where I heard this first, but there's this like principle or idea that a protagonist or like the good guy can only be as good as the antagonist or the bad guy is bad. Like the bad guy has to be really, really, really bad for us to care if the good guy even overcomes that obstacle, even overcomes that huge, challenge. It's not a huge challenge if the bad guy or the situation, like it doesn't have to be a literal person, but if the obstacle to be overcome isn't huge, then the stakes aren't very big and we just don't really care and the story's not very notable. So anyway, this all like connects to our own journey. It all connects to our own experience on the court. If you've insulated yourself from failure and you don't like those feelings of discomfort and those feelings of like pressure or anxiety, and you've worked hard to kind of like insulate yourself from those things, first of all, that's okay. That's fine. As long as you're honest about it and it's just not worth it to you. And you just love like trying to hit the ball so it feels nice and you don't care if you win or lose, or you'd rather just not even deal with, the stress of it. That's totally fine. Really like God bless and enjoy the game and enjoy hitting the ball. But if there's a part of you that wants the thrill of success, if there's a part of you that wants the satisfaction and the fulfillment of overcoming, obstacles, please know that it would be meaningless without the potential downside. I guess that's what I'm trying to like get around to here. And for me, if I don't put stuff on the calendar for myself personally, like as a player, and even as like a coach and as like a content creator and as a business person, if I don't have stuff on the horizon that's not a little bit scary and like, man, it sure would suck if this goes sideways or if it goes negative and it's a huge failure. If there's not something like that on the horizon, it's just I'm at a point now in my relationship with competition where it's just not really that fun anymore. Because if there's not big potential upside, then there's not big potential downside either. And so the downside has to be there. And that's what, for me, like really spurs me like forwards and motivates me and inspires me is the thought of the downside. And that's what brings the satisfaction when upside is there. The fact that it's not guaranteed makes it that much more special when it does happen. You don't know when it's going to happen. And when it does happen, then it's just really super, super meaningful when you didn't expect it, or like take it for granted all along. So anyway, I guess that's it in a nutshell. Just something I kind of went to bed really thinking a lot about and just feeling grateful that I've done a lot over the last couple years where I did put things on the line. Like just the fact that I'm doing this right now today, I put big things on the line. I quit my job with a 1-year-old daughter and a wife who was staying at home full time with her. And so sole provider, and I quit my like fancy country club, teaching job to start doing this. That's for most people a huge risk. And it felt like a big risk at the time. And none of this big upside, would have happened without me taking that potential, it could have been super embarrassing. It might have been the wrong choice. But you don't know unless you put yourself in the arena and you fight and you find out. So hopefully that motivates you and inspires you a little bit, just a little bit of perspective. Thanks for listening. Happy New Year. I'll talk to you again really soon.